Welcome to the CXR channel, our premier podcast for talent acquisition and talent management. Listen in as the CXR community discusses a wide range of topics focused on attracting, engaging, and retaining the best talent. We're glad you're here.
All right, welcome everybody to another edition of the CXR podcast. I am excited. We got a fun topic and we have a very fun person. Listen closely, watch out for her tone. And we're going to jump right in. Some green room chatter bleeding its way into the show already. Tracey Parsons, how are you today?
I'm great, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for asking. For those who may not know who Tracey Parsons is, I'm gonna ask you my now infamous question for the show. Can you give us an escalator pitch around who you are and why we should care what you have to say today?
All right. Well, my escalator pitch is I'm Tracey Parsons, and I've been working in the TA space since the late 1900s, as the kids would say. And the world's first banner ad for recruitment, I placed that in 1997. On ZDNet and launched the first ever social recruiting campaign on MySpace in 2005. So I've got to watch this whole thing grow up, the recruitment marketing employer brand explosion grow up kind of from the front seat and pushing it out the door.
My gosh, Tracey. Okay, so you've got two milestones that you just mentioned. This is totally unrelated to our topic, by the way.
Yeah.
But Jerry's been working on this history of recruiting project. And it's literally goes all the way back to the Romans. I mean, it is this birth of recruiting. You're laughing, but it is literally the history of recruitment.
And you're going to get a copy of it, Laura. Tracey, rather. And when you get the copy, if you add to it, then you become a contributing author. Just
fantastic.
Saying.
And the fact that you're the first person to say MySpace in at least a year, and there was any recruitment done, I think both of those two things would be really interesting to include. So watch out for that. We're going to send that to you.
Happy to participate.
So as we jump in to talk a little bit, because I want to talk internal mobility with you today, you've got a unique perspective on that, I think. And I think we're both aligned with regards to it's just a little bit of a shit show right now with a lot of people playing catch up. Yeah. Just give us really quickly, like 30 seconds about WorkDrive. I know you're the founder of this new organization. Tell us a little bit about what it does, and then let's jump. It's not a product pitch, letting everybody know who's listening.
Oh, no.
But I do want people to have a background of sort of where you're coming from.
Yeah, and it was born out of so I run this consultancy, which we briefly talked about, and a customer had us redesign their entire employee life cycle and candidate experience, how they deal with talent. And we started digging into the data, and I found that they were converting external people into applicants at a 5x rate of internals. So internals weren't converting. And I said, hey, by the way, we've got some software sitting on a shelf that we could probably repurpose this source code for you. And it turned into this whole product now. And they're using it, they're actively using it. And it's essentially, it's trying to kind of reimagine internal hiring and mobility by putting the employee in the driver's seat and giving them the keys to their career, as opposed to somebody saying, oh, we have a plan for somebody, or doing your traditional succession planning. This is more about giving your employees and empowering them to make choices about where they want to go and what they want to do next.
Yeah, so anybody who's interested in the product should check it out. It's WorkDrive with a Q, not a K. Yeah. They should check it out. But I want to talk about your headspace around why you think internal mobility is so important now. Like, why is it such a hot item today?
Well, a couple reasons. We all keep watching these quit rates, and then you'll see these, 3% of the workforce left, and then there's articles like The Economist came out yesterday. There's like, well, this is all overblown. Right? This is all, the Great Resignation is completely overblown. This is actually flat. Regardless, any person that walks out of your door that would rather stay costs your business money. And I've been telling this to my customers for, 20 years, saying, great, it's nice that you're bringing new people in, but what are you doing for the people who currently work here? And we're reaching this saturation point with recruitment marketing and employer brand, where we're getting to the point where keep dumping more names in the top of the funnel. So what are we doing with the people who already work here? How are we engaging them? How are we empowering them? And we've had COVID. I mean, I've told this, I've given this story 62 times, but basically 2 years ago, we were all these lovely little hamsters running on our hamster wheel. And then somebody jammed a pencil in all of our collective hamster wheels and all the hamsters went flying. Right. And so like there's all these concussed hamsters walking around the world going, ow, this is weird. I don't really like, wait a minute, there's a house and a people that I know that I need to take care of. Oh no, what do I do? And then meanwhile, leadership's starting to tape that hamster wheel together, not really fixing it, just putting some tape on it, maybe shining up the edges and say, hamsters, get back on the wheel. And the hamsters are like, we don't really want to get back on the wheel. So we've got all these people who are exiting the workforce. We have a bunch of people that are retiring the workforce and a bunch of hamsters just walking around with concussions. So what I've been advocating for people to do is not only are people leaving the workforce en masse, they are there. I think I saw 6 million in the last year were retirees.
Yep.
We had a lot of people die of COVID in the workforce. That's a big thing. And then in the last year and a half, almost 5 million new small businesses were started, which is a 24% lift from the year before. So people so they're like finding a new way to make money and pay their bills. But at the end of the day, they don't really want to have to do all that, right? Like they would like to get on the wheel or near the wheel or wheel adjacent if we could present them with a better wheel experience.
So I'm imagining all of these
concussed hamsters. I know it's such a great story.
I could just listen to you talk for 30 minutes all by yourself. I mean, I just imagining all these dizzy little hamsters walking around the cage, bumping into the glass, tripping over the water bottle. So I guess my question is, and I'm asking this to the industry with peace and love, why are we so lazy with regards to fixing the internal mobility challenge? Like why, if we're doing all of this stuff externally, we dump, and here's a really easy, lazy example on my part. We're going to spend millions on a new employer brand. We're going to spend millions on an external candidate experience, and we're going to spend crackers, right? Or hamster meal on the internal experience. So it becomes so much easier for somebody to go find a job somewhere else. And I know there's an issue of equity also, right? With internal movement. Oh, yeah. But it's so much easier to go find a job somewhere else, get a 20% raise to go, right? Easily nowadays, 20% raise to go, than it is to even find what jobs are available internally. Why do we do that?
I have a good answer. There was some research last year from, I'm going to get it wrong, Global TA Trends. It might have been LinkedIn data. 70% of TA professionals say the reason they can't get this done is managers. Managers are a barrier to internal mobility because they're concerned that people are they're going to poach their A players. And so okay, cool. But also they're going to leave anyway. So the people that are pulling the trigger on mobility have some things in common. One of them is they're brave and bold and brazen, right? They're going to look at the hiring manager and say, hey, I know you don't want your top performers to leave to go do something that they really want to do, but I'm sorry to tell you, they're going to do that anyway, because the last 3 weeks, they've had 62 LinkedIn invites from recruiters that want to hire them anyway. They actually would like to stay. So we need to make it easy, and you're holding them back, and we're not going to have that talent hoarding mentality anymore at our organization. But they're also really focused on allowing and empowering that employee, right? So that's a big component to this. One of the reasons that we built this, like I've worked at, Monster, TMP, I've worked at a bunch of different brands throughout my career. And every time I wanted to know what the next thing was for me, I was told, we have a plan for you.
Just wait. Be patient.
Just wait. And I was like, well, and I had a lot of reactions to the we have a plan for you thing. I was like, well, whose plan is this? And do I have a point in this plan? And what is the plan? Wait, do you guys care what I want to do? Right. Yeah. And that's where this all kind of was born from. Like, why do I have to, why does somebody have a plan for me? This is my career.
Yeah. Well, and it's fascinating to me that we make it so difficult. And there is a cultural shift. We talk to leaders all the time who are talking about trying to build a business case internally to have an internal recruiting team.
Yes.
And it's not, and while budget is sometimes a challenge, one of the biggest sticking points, I think, Tracey, as you mentioned, is that internal culture of managers or directors who say, this is my talent. No, bub, it's not your talent. It's the organization's talent, right? It's the people that work for the company. It's not your talent. So I'm sorry, your succession planning is such a shit show that you can't figure out how to let people move and grow in the organization.
And with peace and love, I would just pinch their little cheeks.
Yeah. And bring in the sunshine.
You're adorable if you think that that's going to work.
So if we were going to tell somebody how to tackle that internally, right? So it's the Tracey and Chris methodology. What do you think what would be like our top, all right, this is how you're going to tackle this internally. This is how you're going to take on internal mobility. You're going to turn that frown upside down in your organization and get people on the move. What do you think we would tell them?
Well, I think there's a couple different things. One is that you're going to have to be strategic, because one of the things that we keep seeing over and over again is that whenever we're talking to people about work drive, I hear from talent management, well, that's TA. And I hear from TA, well, that's talent management, right? So we've developed a lot of different silos that are preventing internal mobility from happening. And one of the things that we have to do is remember that it has nothing to do with our organizational structure. It has everything to do with the talent we've already paid to attract and hire. So how do we elevate them? So we've got to break down those silos and be really strategic about this. And we need to realize that an internal job board does not internal mobility make, right? So like we were talking in the green room about like little, check mark things. And everybody's going to say we offer internal mobility. And what they're saying is that we have an internal job board.
But we post it 2 weeks before we send it externally, Tracey. So we clearly care about our internal.
Obviously, this is important to us. So what I would say is we have to be really strategic, and we have to let go of our silos and our ownership, and realize that we need to contribute and be strategic about how we bring solutions to the table. The second piece is being fearless. Like clearly going into your talent hoarding managers and saying, this is not the way we're going to do this anymore. And the reason that we're not going to do this anymore is reason number 3 is that they have to know the math. You have to know how much money is walking out your door every year. Like everybody that leaves, I think the stat is 1.5 times their salary if they're a manager or above, is leaving your organization. That's what it costs. Is it higher, Jerry? Yeah. Okay. So let's even say it's 2 times. So if you have $100,000 a year salaried person and they walk out the door, that just cost your organization $200,000. Right? How many did you lose this year? Multiply that by 200,000. That should get your C-suite's attention and allow the talent hoarding managers to say, oh, we're not going to do that anymore because it's hurting our bottom line. Yeah, so it's really about being strategic, having tough conversations, and knowing the math.
Yeah, I think we're also seeing a spotlight that gets shined on the issue of development internally as well, which changes also how we expect or what we expect of candidates into certain roles. So hiring people for potential, hiring people with learning agility, and the willingness to invest in them, I think is a game changer, as opposed to looking for people who've already done that job, or their resume says logically they should make that, that should be the next piece. And I think we're starting to see a shift there as well. And I think that will play nicely from an internal mobility standpoint too, is that, as we want to move them internally, we're also going to double down and develop that talent as well, invest in those people internally.
Absolutely. And how do we know what they want to do and how they want to grow? Right? That is the missing component. Like we make a lot of guesses, and I've seen some tech out there that is, robot driven, that'll take your resume and say, this should be the next job for you. And it was like, if I did not my manager telling me what my plan is, I certainly don't want a robot telling me what my plan is. So we have to give them the keys to that car and let them tell us how they want to grow. And then if they're telling us how would they want to grow them.
I love it.
Maybe that was the tone, but I'm so sorry to say, like, I am very, very common sense and straightforward. And one of the things that I think is kind of funny is that everybody tells me, Tracey, that just makes sense. I was like, yeah, I know, but it's just not common practice.
Yeah. Well, what is it? Who is it once told me that common sense is in short supply and you should learn to charge a premium?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if they tell you where they want to grow them.
Yeah. With
And what
peace
they
and
need.
love, just grow.
With peace and love. Here you go.
Well, Tracey, give us a final thought. I mean, I'm going to put you on the spot. Is there somewhere somebody should go to learn a little bit more about internal mobility? Do you have a reference or a resource that maybe you lean on when you're just trying to catch up on the news or figure out what's going on?
So I have a really extensive setup in Feedly.
Nice.
My Feedly feed is where I go, and I wish I could, share that in a way that would be useful. There's a lot of analyst work being done out there right now that is really strong. We actually we got our hands on the Aspect 43 talent mobility report. So we'll definitely get that to you for the community so people can download that and kind of take a look at it. We're always listening to what Madeline Lorano has to say. She's just got some really great sense going on. She's doing a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of that. And Sarah White's just really, really a smart person. So whatever she's doing at Aspect, we're listening to. And I tell this to people all the time. I was like, we're creating content. All of the internal mobility softwares are creating content. Read it all with a grain of salt, including ours. Like, it's marketing fluff. And follow the analysts, follow your peers, read good case studies. Like, what I want everybody to focus on and realize as we're getting out of this, this is not going to end. Like, the hamsters are tired and they're injured. They're concussed and they're concussed. And so this is not going to end, but think of it this way. And this is one of the things that we've been talking about in the platform. Everybody that's leaving right now, you actually have an opportunity to bring them back in 6 to 9 months. So think about not just internal mobility, but alumni and how those two things play together, because you've crafted and forged a relationship with your talent that you should really invest in. And I think that's what we're trying to communicate across the continuum right now. Like, you've paid a pretty penny to attract and hire these people. Nurture them.
I love it. Well, Tracey, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to have you on again.
I'd love it.
All right. For our listeners, coming up next week, I think we've got one podcast left, I think, for the year. We're inviting Tara Doyle. She's going to talk at TA transformation. So you're going to want to make sure you dial in for that. And for anybody else who's interested, of course, it's cxr.work/podcast. You can check out all of the year's hundreds of episodes that we did this year. And you can also go to cxr.work/books, where we've got a book club going on. We did quite a few books this year. I think at least a dozen of them. It feels like a dozen of them. But we're wrapping up, I think, on the 17th. So next week, we're wrapping up. We're doing an essay. So it's not that if you're a short reader, you got a short attention span, you won't even get through your run on the treadmill to get through it. But we think you'll be laughing out loud at that one. So check that out. And until then, we'll see everybody online in the community at cxr.works. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the CXR channel. Please subscribe to CXR on your favorite podcast resource and leave us a review while you're at it. Learn more about CXR at our website, cxr.works, facebook.com and twitter.com/careercrossroads, and on Instagram at careerxroads. We'll catch you next time.